Hi everybody, Lance from Permanent Records here. For those of you who don't know me, Permanent Records is a record store and it's also a live music venue and a bar in Los Angeles. We've existed since 2006 and I've bought many records over the years. Some records I've paid a ton of money for and others I've paid very little for and gotten very lucky. And that's what today's video is all about. The come-ups. It's not really the biggest part of what we do here at Permanent Records. More often than not, we have to pay the price to get good records, and most importantly, when people bring records to us, we want them to feel like they're getting a fair shake and getting a good wholesale offer for a large lot of records. As I mentioned in a previous video where I break down how we buy record collections, we like to look up every single piece when we have the opportunity to and offer a fair price for every single record in a collection, regardless of how big or small it is. It's the most fair way to go about buying records for resale, and that's how we generally do it. But that said, every once in a while, I'm out in the real world at a garage sale or a flea market or an estate sale or a thrift store, and I find something great for way less than I should have had to have paid for it. This kind of stuff happens in record stores and at record conventions as well, but not as often, obviously. Most people who sell records professionally for a living, they know how to look things up online and price them out fairly. Well, they should price them out fairly, but more often than not, they price them a little too high or at double what they should be, so that they can then have some kind of half off sale and make everything regular price in the real world. But anyway, I've been buying records for over 20 years now. I've been buying records to sell in my shop for over 18 years now. So I decided to poke through the shelf behind me and pull out some things that I got a steal of a deal on one way or another. Maybe it wasn't a steal back in the day when I bought it, but based on the value of that particular record now, I think it's a steal, or it was a good buy, a good investment. I've also paid too much for some of the records behind me. I was poking through and I'm like, oh, damn, I paid that much? That's kind of a bummer. But, 18 years ago, Discogs wasn't as prevalent as it is now, and you had to use whatever tools or intuition that you have to buy records. So anyway, this is kind of a show and tell video of me showing off some stuff from my personal collection. First and foremost, none of this stuff is for sale. We may have another copy of any of these records in the shop for sale, but these particular records are my personal copies of these albums, and I'm only doing LPs also. So I did not do an exhaustive search through everything behind me, but I did pull out a good chunk of stuff to show off to hopefully get this video up around 30 minutes and no more. So I hope you'll bear with me in this show and tell. I hope you're sitting back, you're relaxed, and you're having a pint of the good old IPA like I am now. So welcome to my first show and tell video, y'all. This one is show and tell, the come-ups version. All right, on to the records. I have these records sitting here beside me in no particular order. I'm just gonna pull them up one by one, tell the story behind the record, try to describe what it sounds like and give you a little more information, and we'll take it from there. Sally Kristofferson, Autumn. I bought my first copy of this private press singer-songwriter album for $1. I don't remember where I got it, but when you find something like this, something that looks like this for $1, whether you can listen to it or not, you should just pull the trigger. It's $1 well spent. I don't know how you could possibly spend $1 on anything else and get as much enjoyment out of life as I have, especially with this particular album. So Sally Kristofferson was a singer-songwriter from the Pacific Northwest. I forget what year this was released, but I want to say sometime in the 70s. Probably early 70s, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, the majority of the songs on this album are covers, but they're really, really stripped down versions with mostly just Sally and an acoustic guitar on each one of these tracks. But Autumn, the title track, and That Was Me are originals, written by Steve Ward and Sally Kristofferson. I absolutely love this album. Sally's voice is extremely haunting. It's a perfect record for fall, as you might imagine. And if you like singer-songwriters, especially of the slightly twangy variety, I highly recommend checking this record out. Unfortunately, there are no, well, not no. When I first discovered this record, it was ungoogleable. Since then, Discogs listing has been created, and you'll see the sales stats for this album. They are up there. But, and one track has been uploaded to YouTube. I should take the time and upload the whole album. Maybe I'll do that sometime after this video. But in the meantime, take my word for it. This Sally Kristofferson record is a stunner. If you would like a copy of the original pressing, please drop me a line. We do have a couple of copies available for sale in the shop. All right, hard pivot now. We got Left End. This album's called Spoiled Rotten. Left End were a badass hard rock band from Youngstown, Ohio. They put out this album on Polydor in the early 70s, 1974 to be exact. And this record is stunning at any price. And my price for this one was a whopping $4. Steal of a deal. We just got another copy of this in the shop recently. We posted it for sale on Instagram. I don't recall if it has sold already, but I believe we priced it around $50. So anyway, Left End, yeah, yet another amazing example of a hard rock band from Youngstown, Ohio, from the 70s. Some things, even though I'm saying I got a steal of a deal on these albums, some things I still had to pay up for. This Gary Higgins Red Hash album, this one cost me $225 based on that price tag. I do not recall where I got this. I also don't recall where I got Left End, but either way, Gary Higgins Red Hash, this is a privately pressed singer-songwriter album. It's got fully fleshed out arrangements with drums and stuff on it, but it is one of a kind. This is truly stunning stuff here. It's super, I mean, the album's called Red Hash. It's super stony, laid back, just, oh man, vibey as hell. Just kind of hippie rock. I guess that's a good way to put it. I wouldn't call it overly psychedelic. It's definitely got some psychedelic elements. There is a reissue of this. Drag City Records has reissued this album. We do have some copies in the shop at the moment. You can get them online pretty much anywhere good records are sold. And I highly recommend this if you like that late 60s, early 70s singer-songwriter, stony, Maroney type stuff. Anyway, beyond that, there are more recordings by Gary Higgins. And those of you who are big Elliott Smith fans, I highly recommend checking this album out. I would be stunned to find out that Elliott Smith had not heard this album and taken a lot of influence from it. There are serious Elliott Smith vibes going on here. Yeah, take that for whatever it's worth. All right, changing gears again. I told you I'm just gonna go through these things randomly. This is Andrew Gordon Silhouettes. This is a really great, synth-laden kind of like white boy funk, cinematic, almost library record style album. Andrew Gordon did the theme song for a soap opera Oh, I thought it said that on the back of the jacket, but it doesn't. Anyway, one of the tracks on here was the theme song for a soap opera, or at least he wrote it as that. I don't know if it was actually used or not. Forgive me, I did not do deep dive. I bought a copy of this album back in, I don't know when, looks like 2013 for $6.99, if you can see that. It's worth a lot more than that now. It's not an astronomically expensive album, but it is a scarce one. It's really funky and enjoyable. Every time I've played this for people, they've been blown away by it. I believe you can stream this on Spotify. Numero Group, I believe, has a license for this. I tracked Andrew Gordon probably around the time that I found this copy and asked if he had any copies of the original pressing. He did not have any copies of the record, but he did have original dead stock cassette tapes, and I bought a bunch of those, and we've sold them through the shop over the years for just $10, which is a pretty sweet deal. Anyway, we have a couple left at the time of this recording. I don't know if they'll be around much longer, but anyway, Andrew Gordon, Silhouette. This is a killer all instrumental, if I'm not mistaken, synthy, yeah, kind of jazz funk thing. Really fun, funky stuff. Those of you who like minimal wave and synth wave in general, this unit's Digital Stimulation album is fantastic. High Pressure Days is the track I highly recommend checking out. I bought this for $30 at a record fair somewhere. I don't know when, I don't remember where, but it's worth about twice as much as that now. So I'll consider that a pretty solid deal. In kind of a similar vein, but a little more experimental, a lot more experimental. This Heat was a UK-based group, post-punk, experimental post-punk group. They did a few albums that are all really good. I think Deceit is their most accessible album, and I highly recommend checking this out. I bought this at some point for $50 at a local record store here many years ago. I don't remember when. Definitely before the pandemic, well before the pandemic. And anyway, Deceit by This Heat, highly recommended for fans of experimental post-punk, real throbbing stuff. Speaking of throbbing, we have a jazz funk album, another one. Not exactly. This is 20 Jazz Funk Greats by Throbbing Gristle. This particular copy is the UK original with the poster. It's got a really cool poster. The poster is in the way and under the shrink, blocking what is one of the greatest album covers of all time by an extremely experimental group. Yeah, if you're not already familiar with Throbbing Gristle, this may be your gateway point here. This might be their most accessible album. The rest of their catalog is very harsh and experimental for the most part. And it's cool. I really like Throbbing Gristle. I used to listen to them a lot more than I do now in my old age. But anyway, Throbbing Gristle, 20 Jazz Funk Greats, UK OG with this rad poster. I bought this, again, I don't remember when, but whenever I bought it, I paid $45 for it. I'll show you the price sticker to prove it. Oh, by the way, this video, for this video, I tried exclusively to only include albums that had the price tag still on them, so that you know I'm not just making stuff up. And also that, oh yeah, also keep in mind, these are the records that I still own from over the years. I've sold off my record collection twice to start record stores in Chicago and in LA. And, you know, I've pared down the collection many times over the years. I like to keep this many LPs. Generally speaking, I have about 1,000 records. LPs, that is. I have a lot more 45s than I do LPs. But anyway, my point is, these are the ones that I can speak to and prove that I paid less than retail for. So, I mean, all-time classic synth punk album here. One of the greatest and most innovative and experimental groups of all time. Lauded by everyone from Thurston Moore to Bruce Springsteen. Suicide. This is their self-titled debut, original pressing on Red Star Records. If you don't already know about Suicide, you need to stop watching this video right now and go check out this album and their second album as well. I paid at some point $34.99 for this. It's worth, I believe, around $150 or $200 now. So yeah, quite a good investment. It pays to buy classic albums, especially obscure ones that are just not out there in a way that would make them easy to come by for a long time to come. Another one of my favorite groups of all time is Spaceman III. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Spaceman III, you may be familiar without even knowing it by being familiar with a band called Spiritualized. Jay Spaceman of Spiritualized was one of the founding members of Spaceman III, along with Sonic Boom and Pete Bassman. So Spaceman III, where do I begin? Oh my gosh, they're so incredible. This band took a very simple formula of repetition and fuzz and echo and delay and really just kind of made an amazing catalog of music out of not a lot. And it's kind of insane that it hasn't been replicated very effectively since Spaceman 3 did it. This is one of their mini albums. It's called Playing with Fire. I have a bunch of them on the shelf behind me. Like I said, one of my favorite groups of the 80s and 90s, Spaceman 3. And this album, this is the Fire Records pressing, UK OG, if I'm not mistaken, and I paid $15. This is an amazing record at any price, well, within reason, of course, but $15 is just a steal of a deal for sure. All right, I'm gonna cruise past this one because I can't remember if I actually got this good of a deal on it. But this is Sonic Youth's classic album, Sister. This might be my favorite Sonic Youth album. Daydream Nation's also amazing. Their catalog is very diverse. I really like the debut self-titled EP. It's a very different sounding Sonic Youth than most people are familiar with. But Sister, I think, is a definitive album up there with Evol and, like I said, Daydream Nation, and some others as well. But anyway, this has an $11.14 price tag on it. Again, I don't remember if I paid that or not. So we're just gonna say I did. Oh, and this one also happens to be on purple marbled vinyl. If you are looking for an entry point to like kind of early to mid-era Sonic Youth, that's an amazing place to start. That's definitely, I think it's my favorite album of theirs. Speaking of colored vinyl, we got red vinyl right here. I didn't mean to feature Suicide twice so quickly in this video, so close together, but this is a solo album by one of the founding members of Suicide, the keyboard player, Martin Rev. This is his second, I believe, solo album, Clouds of Glory. This is an amazing record. I got this. This doesn't have a price sticker on it because it came out of a dollar bin that where none of the records were priced. None of them had tags on them at all. So you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. This is an amazing minimal synth album. Also a bit of like an industrial vibe, definitely of its time, post-punky greatness, and it features the keyboard playing and synthesizer playing. He probably played an organ on this album with lots of effects and crazy amount of delay and stuff on the vocals. It's just really cool. Fun fact, Permanent Records did a reissue of Clouds of Glory at some point in the past, sometime before 2011, I think, somewhere in there. Yeah. So if you can't find an OG, and this is the original pressing on New Rose, I believe that's a French label. Anyway, you can get the Permanent Records reissue. Not from us because it's out of print, but it is around. Fake punk. Is it the best punk? Sometimes I think so. This is Puke, Spit, and Guts, and their album Eat Hot Lead. This album is insane. This is a bunch of biker rock people, presumably, I can't remember the backstory exactly, but I believe these people played in a biker rock band together. Well, lo and behold, punk rock became a thing, and Puke, Spit, and Guts got formed, and here's the back of the cover. The biker rock band decided to get in on the punk bandwagon, and yeah, they made like a pretty incredible fake punk album. I highly recommend it. You know, you got this guy, that gal, that guy, and Suicide. It just, you can't make this stuff up, right? And not only does my copy, is my copy original, it also has this Puke, Spit, and Guts flyer. It's got the insert and the poster, which is way too big to fold out and show you, but okay, whatever, let's give it a shot. Oh boy. Well, you're not going to be able to see all of it, but there you have it. Puke, Spit, and Guts, one of the greatest fake punk albums of all time. And yeah, I got an amazing deal on this thing. It was $19.91, if you can see that there. Not only is that a good deal for that album in general, with the flyer, the exceedingly rare flyer, and the poster and the insert, it's an even better deal. And here's to good deals. All right. Not the most amazing deal, but speaking of Spaceman 3, if you like Spaceman 3 and Jesus and Mary Chain, and you're not already familiar with this band, Loop, get familiar. Their entire catalog is amazing. It's a very small catalog, especially from the original era. They've gotten back together, they reunited and recorded new material. Also good, not quite as good as the first era of Heaven's End, a Gilded, not a Gilded Palace of Sin, that's the Flying Burrito Brothers. Anyway, there's 3 early Loop albums. This is a double LP of Peel session recordings from 1987 to 1990. I was so ecstatic when I found this back in the day for $11.95. I don't know if that's actually, it's got to be worth more than that, but it's not that amazing of a deal. I just mostly wanted to tell y'all about Loop if you hadn't heard of them. Lots of fuzz, lots of delay, lots of repetition. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then definitely need to hear Loop ASAP. I'm not sure what that beeping was all about, but either way, maybe it was because this record was also just $1. I got lucky and found this at a record fair for $1, and I did not know what it was. I had no idea, but with an album cover like that, with it being an album from 1985 from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I had to take a shot on it. I did, and I couldn't be more stoked that I did, because not only did I get this record home and check it out, and it blew my mind as like a really, really good artifact of early 80s post-punk, it also has now been reissued by Writing Easy Records, thanks to me. You can stream this and the entirety of the Living Links recorded output on Spotify now. There are 2 singles, this LP. The LP, I had some original stock copies of it. Those are sold out. We do have a few original stock copies of the cassette tape for just 20 bucks up on our website. If you're a fan of Talking Heads, Joy Division especially, and Susie and the Banshees, I highly recommend this. Female vocals on a lot of it, male, female vocals, just amazing, stripped down post-punk from, believe it or not, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What the hell? Unbelievable. Speaking of punk, one of the best punk albums of all time is Generic by Flipper. This album, as you can see, is it means so much to me. This band really blew my mind the first time I heard them. It sounded exactly like what I thought the band was going to sound like based on what I had read about them. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana was a huge Flipper fan. And if you like side 2 of My War or really dirgy, like bummer punk stuff, like bands from St. Louis, like Drunks with Guns, Flipper is gonna knock your socks off. Flipper can be fun too. Sex Bomb is like a really fun kind of mutant disco jam. But for the most part, this is really dirgy, downer, bummer punk, and by one of the greatest punk bands from the Bay Area of all time. I cannot recommend this album highly enough. I broke my rule. I bought my copy of this record in a record store in Columbia, Missouri. When I lived there, I was going to school in Columbia at Mizzou, University of Missouri, that is. Go Tigers. And a record store had a copy of this in the bins for $20 or $30, which at the time, this is early 2000s, was like the most I had ever spent on an album. But I had to have this album. It meant so much to me. And if you haven't heard this already, you have to. Those of you who have, you already know what I'm talking about, and hopefully you love it just as much as I do. Okay, I'm breaking my rule all over the place. This is the Faith Void split. At the same time I was in college listening to Flipper, I was also listening to a ton of Discord records. This label is one of the quintessential punk record labels of all time. Not only musically, but in its ethos. Discord is essential listening for anyone who's into punk. Pretty much everything on the label is quality in one way or another. Faith and Void were 2 hardcore bands from DC. Discord did almost exclusively releases by bands from the DC area, and it was run by Ian MacKaye. Ian MacKaye. I have to second guess myself. When I used to talk about Ian MacKaye more frequently, I knew exactly how to pronounce his name. MacKaye of Minor Threat, Fugazi, more recently The Evens, and a ton of other bands like Egg Hunt and so on and so forth. Anyway, I bought this copy of this quintessential Faith Void. People buy it for the Void side. Faith's cool. Features Ian MacKaye's little brother. And anyway, I bought a copy of this record off the wall at a record store in Northern California for $20. That's insane. Go check the stats. I don't know where it is now. It's at least $100. And I was like, this is $20. It's on the wall, so they know it's valuable. Why is it not priced what it should be? I don't know. Hey, I was at the right place at the right time, and they made a mistake. G.G. Allin? Really? Lance likes G.G. Allin? Well, yeah, kinda. I do like this album a lot. It's a really fun album. It's his first album. G.G. Allin's album is called Always Was, Is, and Always Shall Be. This is on a label called Rock International Production. They did other stuff as well, including some David Peel records and stuff like that. Well, anyway, this G.G. Allin record is unlike any other G.G. Allin record. It's a almost power poppy punk record. It's got some really, really catchy moments, and it only hints at the insane, provocative and aggro and offensive things that G.G. Allin would do in later times. Anyway, this is an original pressing. It's also autographed by G.G. Allin and other members of the band. So cool. how about that? Do I have a price on this? I bought this for $100, which is like a steal of a deal. I obviously took the price tag off of it. It's not on there anymore. All right, we'll skip past a couple things here. Can Eje Bamyasi. This is the original US pressing. A classic Crut Rock album. Anybody familiar with Can knows that this is way more than a $9 album, but that's what I paid for it. Amazing deal. I got this Terry Riley, a Rainbow and Curved Air album at a garage sale for $1. It's not a crazy expensive album, but it's a really enjoyable modern composition album with lots of synthesizers all layered, and yeah, it's real meditative and soothing. You're not gonna believe this, but I bought this Harmonia album deluxe at a garage sale for 50 cents in 2013 here in LA. I have no idea how I got that lucky. That's another essential Crut Rock album. Absolutely amazing. And because I said I wouldn't show anything that didn't have a tag on it, I think I'm gonna call this video right now. So just for those of you who would like to purchase something from our website, permanentrecordsla.com, this Cudo and Worth album, this is a really cool Pasadena, California singer-songwriter, kind of folky album. This duo put this thing out themselves back in the day. This is not OG, but I did score an OG at a garage sale once for next to nothing, and I sold it, I think, for about $1,200. Well, anyway, Cudo, and forgive me if it's Cudo or Cudo, no, forgive my pronunciation. It's a really cool album. You should check it out. There are reissues. The band did a great job of doing their own reissue of this extremely rare album. They do not have any stock copies of the original pressing, unfortunately, but we sell these on consignment for the band. I've been working with Ken Cudo on helping him move those over the course of the last few years since I discovered the original pressing. And let's see, what do we got here? Oh yeah, Sylvain Carell. This is an amazing minimal synth, mostly ambient synthesizer album. It's propulsive. It's got some rhythm tracks on it, stuff. Really beautiful, floaty stuff. If you're a fan of like Mort Garson and let's see, what else does this sound like? I don't know. Good ambient electronic music. Look Over the Nile is an amazing privately pressed album, and this is OG. I got this super cheap, but I don't remember when or where, and it doesn't have a price tag on it, but you will be able to procure a copy of that reissue for yourself sometime soon. Not yet, but soon. And last but not least, I've talked about this album a bunch of times in a bunch of other videos. This is Band X, the best of Band X. This is the OG pressing of this album. Riding Easy and I worked on a reissue of this for Record Store Day 2024. I discovered this not that long ago, just a couple years ago. I bought this at a record store called, well, let's not say what the record store is called. I don't want them to be embarrassed or anything. I bought this for $200 at a record store in, I won't say where. But either way, it was a great deal. And not only did I buy this album, I then tracked down Craig Payton and we reissued the best of Band X. That's it, y'all. Thank you for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment. I want to hear about all the amazing deals that you have had over the years, all the come-ups and scores that you've had while out digging. So hit me with a comment below. While you're at it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell. Right on, y'all. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate you. If you need me, I'll be over on Instagram posting records for sale at Permanent Records LA. See you next time.